So welcome all. This is my Plutonic Planes channel. This is Meten, and I'm going to do hexagram 64. So this is gate 64, transit September 3rd to September 7th. So this is leading us right up into the eclipse, the full moon eclipse on the 7th, which will be coinciding with a uh, lunar eclipse. And that will be actually from the 3rd to the 9th. And this is where the sun, it's going to be in the opposing sign. So you could see here the sun is in gate 64. And so its opposite is the earth. In human design, we always have the earth sign, which is always opposite the sun. It's also known as the programming partner. And in this case, this particular binary, these are the final two gates in the 64 gates of the I Ching. And so it's a very powerful pair. And the contrast of meaning here is something that Rudd underscores in his gene keys, the contrast between kind of the mind and the culmination of the mind, or looking at it as the left brain or the right brain, and 64 being the left brain process. And I'll be going over that. And so the eclipse will be occurring in the sign of the moon, which will be opposite at that time. This chart is for September 3rd. So I'm just speaking of the eclipse coming, but this chart is for September 3rd. And we do begin the month off with a very intense week. We will also be ending the month with a very intense week. The first week, of course, a build up to the full moon lunar eclipse, and the last week of the year, beginning with a solar eclipse and a solar eclipse opposite the Aries vortex, and coinciding with Mars moving into Scorpio. And so a very intense, um, powerful time. Once Mars goes into Scorpio, it'll be squaring Pluto and Aquarius. So a fall equinox that's filled with tension, perhaps geopolitical events, perhaps even, I know for years now, every time we arrive at September 23rd, people are talking about there being events of, electronic um, kind of just breakdowns and weather patterns, weather destruction, and our control grid, our grid, our electrical grid. And so we'll see, hopefully not, but be sure to, wherever you live, be sure to make sure you have go bags and that you have enough food and that you're prepped no matter where you are, because it's a very unpredictable month, and there's already a shift in the air you can feel as of September 1st today, as Saturn went retrograde into Pisces, as we move into Pisces energy, especially with this Pisces eclipse at 15 degrees Pisces, and that'll be on the 7th. So what it is with, and I'm doing this the night before, or 2 nights before, so you guys will get this one day before if I put it out tomorrow. So if you can see, looking at this particular human design graph, you can see that this mental channel, the 6447, is activated, as so is the 5720. No, the 5720 is awareness, intuition in the now, in the moment, like the mind, the quickness of the mind. So careful what if you open up your mouth too quick and say things without thinking, there could be a lot of conflict caused by that in these next couple of days or next week. And that's coinciding with a lot of frustration and confusion coming from gate 64, looking for the aha moment in the 47. And so we got the mind overworking itself, and we got intuition strong speaking. But also, this is a powerful manifestation gate. And of course, we have the Aries vortex activated in 25. And then we have our bargains being made and also ended with the 59. And Pluto's in retrograde, moving back into the 60, where we have limitations. And we will be seeing that as our economic changes, transformations occur before they perfect itself into a real system that's not based on lies and, you know, pretty much that pretty much the whole setup that occurred that book, Confessions of an Economic Hitman, relayed to us all many years ago. And so what we have here in this particular gate, the sun transit, where all the neutrinos, the majority of which 60 to 70% are passing through this mental channel here, looking for the 47, looking for the solution. What we have essentially is a pressure. Now, both the root below and the head center above are pressure centers. What this means is that if we have those spaces open, that we feel pressure. And if it's the open root center, like you see down below, then it's the pressure to move, to act. It's an impetus to get the adrenaline flowing and moving and the body moving. So usually people born with the open center on the root, usually they can be a little overactive, hyperactive as children. And what happens with this open center, if you have an open center up here, and it's being defined right now during this time, there's a lot of collective pressure. There's a lot of thoughts. There's a lot of thoughts that don't concern you, that don't matter, mostly a processing of collective energy. Now, the reason why it receives pressure is because it's not really a motor, not like these centers down here, which the motors would be the solar plexus, the root center, as well as the sacral and the ego center. Those are the motors. But these centers, the center on top is just more of a pressure center. And what we're doing in this process with the 64 is there's confusion before there's clarity. And this particular gate is known as diverse possibilities. And so this is about the mind. And it's about the collective mind. So we ask ourselves, whose problems are we trying to solve? Are they ours or are they others? Now this is a collective channel. It's abstract, it's logical. So we're taking account of the past, and that's what Ra called the abstract process. And so we're projecting this into the future. And what we're doing is this is something that we share with others. Those who have this particular channel, 6447 in their charts, your mental solutions are not for you, they're for others. They're to support others. It's a collective channel. Now, as I was saying, this is confusion before clarity. This is the real definition of a gate. It's called before completion, but it is about before completion in the sense of cyclical mental images that come from the past to appear in the mind. And these come all jumbled up together in order to create the pressure of mental activity in order to get to a solution. Now we know we don't want to let the mind control our lives because then that just leads to confusion. There's no confusion if we're not trying to come to a mental resting point, as if logic will heal us, as if rationalizing things is the be all end all of life on earth. If the purpose is to satisfy the mind with certainty, then one is already lost. There is no certainty, there's only really doubt. And at some point, doubt is what moves us forward anyway. There would be no higher levels of mental understanding or some levels of certainty without allowing for doubt and going deeper and deeper into things. Of course, this creates its own problem because humans aren't really logical as much as Western civilization might want to instruct us. And so the energy around this particular gate is about confusion, the lack of clarity, but we're looking for it. We're looking for the other side. Each gate is always looking for its other side. And in this case, the 64 is looking for the 47. And the 47 is the aha moment. And we have that in transit this week, but that's not where the sun is. It's where the south node is. So that's looking for the old answers. That's looking for Virgo, looking for certainty. And we're looking for that right now. There's a feeling of clarity and a way forward with this recent new moon in Virgo, 0 degrees. There is a chance at a new beginning. Now we want to write it up. We want to know clearly what that is, but we're still North Node in Pisces. We're still behind a veil, and we can't quite penetrate that veil yet. And so, really, we are in confusion. And these next couple months will bring us clarity, but also a lot more confusion. As I was saying, it's already in the air, a certain uncomfortability, a certain unsettledness. We can feel the eclipses building. And in these eclipses, new things will be born that won't be clear right away as to what they really are until months and months later. So what we have here then with gate 64 is we have the whole concept of moving past the irritation and confusion that comes in life when we try to create certainty in our reality. And more often than not, most humans are desperate to grasp onto some kind of certainty to hold on to, as if it will keep them grounded and solid. But as many of us know, like putting your ground that you stand on as logic cannot work because logic can't subsist out beyond the shadow of the inquirer himself. The fact that we are ourselves are inquirers casts a shadow on all the events that we attempt to look at, both past, future, and present. We may be able to see a picture, an image, but how it actually plays out, many factors are involved. We can see it as close as possible, and sometimes we can be accurate. It's not always the case, because again, the mind cannot always contain the day, nor the future and the past, but it can glimpse it. And actually, during this time, during these eclipses, there will be a very heightened awareness to capture images from the past and future. And so clairvoyance, take a little more extra time in meditation, because with the preciseness of Virgo aspects, along with Pisces, you have the archetype of the magician, someone who's willing to focus and take the correct steps to see the vision, which is Pisces. And so perhaps even a glimpse like the mystic will be able to have in this particular month. So spend extra time in your third eye, looking and perceiving, but also just take that time to just be. It's really important to be in nature as always, and to just be every day, 5, 10 minutes, to not worry if you're overthinking or not thinking, or just to just breathe. Now, one key thing to understand about the mind and why our mind tries to take over is because as humans, and I always say this is something I repeat often, but I think it's really important. The real purpose of life is to share a gift, whatever that is. It's important that we share our gifts with others. And some of us don't like to do that. I struggle with that myself. But, you know, one doesn't want to share their gifts until their gifts are perfected, or at least, well practiced. And so what we have is the theme that I'm making is creativity. And I'm not saying that's directly a human thing. I mean, human design goes as far as to say that all our creativity is channeled anyway. And thus you have the Godheads in human design. You have each gate ruled by a particular Godhead. But in this case, more what I'm referring to is when we utilize our energy towards creativity, then we're in a state of transmutation because we're appreciating and having gratitude for our experience of life, so much so that we're in turn being creative and creating in turn. Because when we don't use that energy, it gets utilized in kind of creatively applying it to life, to our past, to our future. And then we begin to projectively identify our surroundings and creatively embellish the characters that are in our life or that were in our life. And we make up stories. We start to make up some fiction, some imaginative fiction about them. And some of those stories are really good and they fit or seem to fit. And some of that helps us, especially those of us who like to psychologize and analyze. But really, this type of projection always leads to self-doubt because of what part of what we perceive is not our own shadow, most of it. But it's interesting to psychologize and to be aware of our processes and to analyze and see, even observe ourselves playing out certain processes and certain patterns and programs. Certainly is fascinating. And you can make a good fiction out of it if you write well. But more of what I'm getting at is the dangers of the mind to construct illusions, falsities, just things that aren't really correct and happening in the world. There's too much of an embellishment of what really is. And how to avoid that again is to be creative, to make sure that you spend time every day doing something you really enjoy, because that is creative play. And that's what the verse is about. That's what our experience here is about, as well as learning our lessons, of course, whatever those are. Now, with creativity, it's born from chaos. It's born from melancholy. It's born out of pain sometimes. But more often than not, it's born out of focus and the ability to sit with our pain and sit with our process and create. Because, I mean, even our certainty itself, or attempt to find certainty, is also born of chaos. It's born of a need to tie that chaos down and hold it and control it. It's more born of fear than anything else. And so that's the way to deal, I feel, with most of these complexes of life, especially through the 64, because all we have there is confusion until the clarity comes. And clarity comes when we can just be. Nature, of course, helps that. Being in nature rewires the biofield, clears up the fields. So if you have too much energy in your open centers from being out there with all those animals, once you go into nature, it starts to clear your biofield, clear things up, clear those open centers so you can be calm again and grounded in your body. And so that's the movement in itself. That's what the 64 is. That's where it leads. It leads to a form of clarity, a form of truth that's beyond logic. But we don't arrive there until we've exhausted all attempts at rationalization and logic to define a certainty. Sometimes we buy our own certainty and we sell it, and perhaps for a moment it's of value, but it's never ultimate. It doesn't outlast our fears or our doubts. Truth is just something that is. It's not something that could be or one imagines to be. It's just what is. And being able to grasp that is something that only occurs when it does. And that's why the 64, that's why during this time in September leading to this eclipse, there will be a lot of confusion as to who this person is in front of you. Who are you? Is there resonance? So there is energy available to resonate with those you resonate with. It should just happen naturally, but there will be dissonance during these eclipses, but there will also be moments of sight and insight and potential for real clairvoyance, real deep dreaming, and penetrating through deep truths of our existence, if you can catch them. And so that's it. Hopefully that was helpful to you guys. This is the energy of gate 64 as it leads up into the eclipse. 63 is its programming partner, the Earth, and that one is about the truth beyond logic. That's where the 64 wants to arrive. And so it's very close in meaning. It's almost the next meaning. Of course, it looks going backwards since it's the 63, but it too will be active. So the mind will be, it'll be about perception these next 6, 7 days. And so remember to reframe if you need to. And to, instead of judging things so distinctly or harshly, remember to just have discernment, compassionate discernment. All right, best to you all. That's all I got. And see you Friday with also I'm gonna do an episode with Tula, hopefully tomorrow. So a couple of videos coming out soon. Okay. And oh yeah, and Tula and I are gonna do the moon. We're gonna continue our view, our esoteric kind of alternative view of the planets as utilized in both human design and astrology and astronomically and metaphysically. And so that's it. Okay, thanks so much.